Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time talking episode 22 of The Flash called Rogue Air. And this is a nice little nod to the old action movie Con Air. And while this is generally speaking a good episode, it does kind of feel, seeing as how it's the penultimate episode, before the big season finale, like they're kind of spinning their wheels here. It's just something to take up one more episode before the big deal. And I understand that the particle accelerator is probably going to play a pretty significant role in all of this. So, of course, if you're going to do that, you have to deal with the supervillains who are in the pipeline. But again, this just didn't really feel like the most riveting idea that they could have gone with for something like this. So let's just kind of get right into things. One kind of criticism that I saw people leveling at this episode was basically when Barry decides to cut a deal with Captain Cold, and ultimately kind of course blows up in his face, and then Joe kind of has to go in there and remind him, like, well, you're not Oliver Queen. Cutting deals with bad guys isn't really the sort of thing that you do. And a lot of people I saw were complaining, like, Barry already knows that he needs to be his own hero. This is going back over things we already like. No, idiot. No. Alright? Yeah, Barry knows he has to be his own hero. But that doesn't mean that he automatically knows what he's going to do in every single situation. He knows that he can't copy Oliver. He can't be that sort of grim and gritty person. But that's not a mission statement. That's not a checklist. Alright, he does have to figure out where his own boundaries are. And yeah, cutting a deal with a bad guy is the sort of thing that Oliver would do. But just because Oliver would do it doesn't mean that Barry automatically shouldn't do it. I mean, Oliver does a lot of things that are way beyond what Barry would ever go, but that doesn't automatically mean that everything that Oliver would do, Barry should not. So yeah, I mean, Barry does have to learn that he is not the sort of person who can really get away with cutting deals with guys like Captain Cold. Oliver Queen can get away with cutting deals like Malcolm Merlyn because he's been through this sort of stuff, that he knows how to handle those sort of situations. Barry is a good guy who was out there trying to save people's lives, including the lives of people who were basically pretty damn evil, But he just sort of made the mistake of thinking that somebody like Snart would stick to his word. So I really don't think that Barry was really. I mean, of course, his decision was a bad reason, but he wasn't backsliding as a character. Barry learned a lesson about where his boundaries are, what sort of lines he should not cross. I mean, that sort of thing isn't going to be automatic for people. So, frankly, I felt that was a rather dumb criticism. But let's kind of get right into some of the more character stuff, and then we'll talk about some of the other things. Now, it is nice to see that Eddie's finally been rescued. I guess this reverse flash must have allowed him to shave at least once or twice, because I'm pretty sure that wasn't exactly 2 weeks worth of beard that Eddie was rocking there. But again, one of those things we probably shouldn't overly focus on. And I really like how Eddie deals with the fallout of all this. He's just like, Iris, if you love me, just go away, because I can't deal with this right now. And Iris does have a perfectly logical argument, like, well, how do you know he wasn't lying to you? Well, what reason could he possibly have for lying to that? Reverse Flash absolutely wants to make sure that he is born, and he does need Eddie to marry whoever it is that he marries and has kids with for that to happen. So him pushing Eddie away from Iris, again, that in no way does not benefit him. And that even puts it really simply. It's like, I've always known that there have been kind of three people in this relationship. So yeah, he really was kind of kidding himself that there wasn't more going on between Iris and Barry that there was. But, this is a nice way of sort of nudging Eddie possibly down a darker path. Maybe him going somewhere as far as to become the modern Reverse Flash at some point down the road, sort of taking in the role of Hunter Zolomon from the comics. and thus starting the great rivalry between the Allen and Thawne families. I mean, again, that's spitballing, but let's see, what else do we have to talk about here? Well, we already talked about that nice scene between Barry and Joe. And we've already talked about, the whole morality of Barry wanting to save the criminals in the pipeline. I did like that scene between Joe and the district attorney lady, whose name I can't remember. A lot of people were kind of wondering, like, well, is this maybe setting up something like potential romance for Joe in the future? I mean, it has been briefly mentioned, I think, that he hasn't really been seeing anybody since Iris's mom died. And that crossed my mind too, but I mean, this is a little bit of an odd thing to sort of throw in there at the very end of the season. It's something that possibly could be picking up next season, assuming the actress is available. Again, maybe. Now, they did talk about the whole imprisoning the metahumans thing, and one thing that I just saw people complain about was like, oh, well, now they finally get around to dealing, like, no, stupid, were you not watching this show? They have mentioned before, hey, we're locking these people up without trial. I mean, Joe has objected to this before, but it's been pointed out to him, well, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want us to do with these people? And Joe even says, I think in this episode, Iron Heights prison cannot handle these guys. So it's been addressed for some time. It's been mentioned, I guess I should say. It's never been majorly focused on, really, until this episode. But it has been acknowledged, so the people who are saying that they've never really talked about this before are just flat out freaking wrong. I mean, I swear to God, I'm not perfect here. I forget things on the shows that I watch. But, for the most part, I pay attention to what's going on. And that's all I ask. Pay frickin' attention. Jeez Louise. Of course, the district attorney lady is like, yeah, this needs to stop, and God help you if I ever have to investigate this in an official capacity. So, yeah, one way or another, the pipeline cannot continue. Now, I do like the solution of, hey, let's ship them off to Leanne Yu. Here's the question, though. If you can get Argus to get a plane to come out to the airfield, why can't you get Argus to send a truck to Star Labs? I mean, seriously. And again, this is one of those things that it has to happen because of plot reasons rather than real-world logic. But still, it's just like, hello, Argus, we have a bunch of powerful supervillains here. Would you be willing to come and pick them up? I mean, I guess part of it might be they don't want to tip Argus off as to where the Flash's base of operations is. And okay, I guess that makes sense. But still, why not just drive the truck somewhere else and just have the Argus guys pick it up? I mean, again, there's just so many logical breaks here that really doesn't work. But again, plot. I mean, again, this is sort of along the lines of nobody ever notices that Clark Kent is Superman. Sometimes stuff just has to happen this way against real-world logic because that's where the drama is. I mean, there would be no drama if a bunch of guys from Argus just said, like, oh, you got some supervillains for us? Hey, thanks so much. We are totally going to get these guys to Leon Yu. No time at all. Laters. Okay, that's not the least bit interesting. That, and frankly, it's lazy writing. I mean, I hate to say that in the face of this makes no logical sense. But remember, this is a comic book show. It's all about the drama. And a big part of it, of the comic book storytelling is, acceptable breaks from reality, willing suspension of disbelief. So, there is no perfect solution in this situation except let what is going to be the most interesting thing possible happen. Get some crumbs on my keyboard. Really should stop eating dinner in front of this thing, but now that takes away from the YouTube time. Okay, now speaking of really poor logic, let's come to the crux of all of this, and this is the fact that Snart stabs Barry in the back. Now, we all probably saw this coming, because, it's Snart, and he even gives him a variation on the famous story about the scorpion and the frog. But here's the thing that really gets me about all of this, and that is backstabbing Barry is actually really against Snart's best interests. I mean, the deal he had as it was with Barry was, as long as Snart doesn't kill anybody, he more or less has a free pass to rob and do whatever in Central City. As long as you don't kill anybody, the Flash will leave you alone. And this applies to his sister and Heatwave. Again, this is he basically has a free pass, and all he has to do is not kill anybody, which even Snart admits he doesn't have to do if he doesn't want to. And then he stabs Barry in the back for the possibility that the rogues will join, like the other people that he frees will join him as part of the rogues. One, there's no guarantee that they will. And remember, as smart as he is, Snart's still just a guy with some high tech. He has his sister and his buddy as allies, but he's dealing with actual metahumans. I mean, if Weather Wizard decides to say, screw you guys, he can pretty much drop a tornado on them, or shoot lightning and crap at them. There's nothing that's going to stop Rainbow Raider from maybe turning Heatwave on them. I mean, again, they might win that fight, but they're also dealing with other people who are, basically evil liars and murderers. So the idea that they're going to really be particularly beholden to the idea that they owe Snart one is at best very questionable. And then the really hilarious thing is that after all this is over, Barry goes like, "Look, why don't you just kill me?" And Cole goes like, "Well, if I don't do that, then you owe me one." Okay, and this is after he's stabbed Barry in the back and violated the prior agreement that they had by killing Deathbolt. Okay, there is no I can't imagine Barry is going to be the least bit inclined to go with, "Hey, you owe me for not killing you." After all of this, I mean, Snart's living in a dream world if he thinks Barry is going to go along with this. And if the writers in season 2 actually do pull that, I'm going to be really pissed, because that's bullshit. Now, okay, the idea and there's also the fact that Snart says, okay, we never do find out what the first thing he asked for was on that piece of paper. I'm really damn curious. But he says, like, okay, Flash, use your powers to go out there and erase all records of me from everybody. The cops, the feds, Argus, everybody. Erase all my records. But don't bother to do the same for my sister or my friend. So, once Barry sorts all this stuff out with Reverse Flash, I can't imagine that he's not going to be like, okay, guys, now that we've dealt with Reverse Flash, however, priority number 1 is throwing Captain Cold and his buddies in jail. F it if he wants to tell people who I am. Or he could really just basically grab these guys and toss them to Argus and ship them off to Lian Yu. Yeah, Argus's database has been wiped and physical evidence is gone, but there are still going to be people there who remember who Leonard Snart is. You think Joe somehow forgot who Leonard Snart is? You think all those cops in Central City forgot who Leonard Snart is? Oh yeah, all those people who would have seen Cold and Heatwave go on a rampage and challenge the Flash to a fight. I mean, you tell me that wasn't all over the frickin' world. I mean, Leonard Snart should be like one of the most recognizable people on the planet after that. I mean, again, we're getting back into the whole acceptable breaks from reality, but that really doesn't change the fact that, yeah, people are going to, just with their own brains, remember who Leonard Snart is. And it's not like he isn't going to start leaving behind physical evidence again. Now, he wears gloves, but, skin cells, things like that. And then there's the whole fact that Argus really doesn't give a damn about proper court proceedings. I mean, all Flash has to do is find out where Snart is, wait until he steps 1 foot outside, grab him, and then, I don't know, dump him in front of Lila and Diggle, bound head to toe in duct tape. He does that, and it's a one-way ticket to Lian Yu for Snart. Or, he can even just say, track Snart down and go like, hey, if you screw with me again, I'm going to toss your sister to Argus, and see how happy you are, and have fun trying to bust her out of Leanne. You, I mean, really, there's a reason why, if you really think about it, the Flash is one of, I don't want to say most frightening, but most powerful heroes in the DC universe. And if they ever really just went completely realistic with his powers, they didn't impose a lot of the dramatic limitations on him. I mean, keep his powers the same way as they are, then nobody would get away with anything in Central City with the Flash around. I mean, any villain like the Flash could just, like, as soon as they do anything, he grabs them and just throws them right in front, right to the cops. And I really hope someday somebody will point out to Snart, you seem to think that this guy Barry being a moral person is like some sort of weakness, something that you can exploit. And to a degree, that's true. But I think Snart also needs to be reminded that Barry being a moral person is probably, after this, the only thing that's keeping him alive. I mean, if Barry ever lost it and crossed the line and became kind of like season 1 Oliver somehow, Snart would probably be like the first person he would kill. Snart would just be strolling down the street one day, Barry would grab him, and the next thing he knows, Snart's in the middle of the shark-infested waters of the Indian Ocean. He doesn't even know how he got there. Although we'd probably realize it pretty quick. Or, hell, like Barry could just run up behind the guy with a bat. Knock his head halfway to Cleveland. Or there's just the whole fact that he could grab him, run really fast, and stop. Now, have you ever stopped to think what would happen if you were going, like, God only knows how fast, and suddenly you stop? Well, remember, ladies and gentlemen, there is a thin layer of fluid supporting your brain between your brain and your physical skull. Now imagine if suddenly, bam, you stop after going at a ridiculous amount of speed. Guess what? Your brain is going to slam into the front of your skull and turn into pudding. And that's not a joke. That is real science. That can happen. Like, scientists know this crap can happen. That's one of the reasons they have so many safety procedures on supersonic jets and stuff like that. So, yeah. Basically, if the Flash ever, basically, Leonard Snart should be praying to God every day that Barry's sanity and good moral standing, because otherwise, if that ever slips away, he is just beyond dead. So, yeah. That said, though, I mean, it's so wonderful to watch Wentworth Miller as Captain Cold. I mean, you could tell this is a man who's just having a grand old time. And, him being promoted to a regular over on Legends of Tomorrow, I doubt he's complaining about that either. That's certainly not going to do his career any damage. And today's the day that the trailer for that dropped, and I was watching all of that and the behind-the-scenes footage and stuff, and oh man, does that show look good. Now, of course, that isn't going to pop up on TV until January, and Flash is probably going to come back sometime in October, which is more than enough time for us to see some sort of, a rematch between Barry and Snart. And this time around, I really do want Barry to kind of come out on top, because Snart's overdue for some payback. And yeah, let's see. Getting back to the Reverse Flash. Well, why did Harrison Wells leave Star Labs? What was that guy out there doing? And of course, then this episode, like the final 5 minutes, we get the Firestorm Arrow Flash team up. I mean, obviously the seed that is going to one day grow into the Justice League. And while it wasn't quite spelled out on the show, the preview comic for when they found Harrison Wells' little time vault did say that Barry was a founding member of the. And obviously the answer to that would have to be the Justice League. So here's the moment. Here's the moment where we really get to see the seed for the Justice League firmly and properly planted. And I just love that pan, Firestorm bursting into flames, the lightning going across Barry's eye, Oliver pulling back the bow. I love shots like that. There's a really awesome shot of stuff like that on the old '90s X-Men cartoon. Just sort of the X-Men sort of flexing their powers right before they went into this massive battle with Apocalypse and his horsemen at, I think it was Stonehenge. And that was one of those moments when I was a kid, just like, yes, superheroes are awesome. And this fight does not disappoint. Well, except in the fact that Firestorm literally has 4 words to say during the entire fight, and he never really once speaks to Green Arrow. I mean, given that the Amels are cousins, that's more than a little disappointing. But I'm sure the guys over at Arrow are probably like, "Oh, dude, we totally need to have Robbie Amell guest star." And I'm sure Stephen Amell's like, "Yeah," and see if you can get Matt Ryan to come on by. I mean, he's even said on Twitter, Stephen Amell said, like, dude, if they bring back Constantine, like on another network or something like that, Netflix, I will totally guest star. The people there are working behind the scenes to see if they can maybe work out Matt Ryan guest starring on Arrow as John Constantine, and oh man, would that be great. I love John Constantine. Matt Ryan was phenomenal as the character. I love the guy. But anyway, yeah, the team up there, like Firestorm comes in and Cisco's just like says it with awe, Firestorm, and then Oliver swings in and there's that cue from Arrow and it's just like, yes. Oh man, we are so lucky to be living in this day and age. This is beyond the wildest dreams I could have ever had years ago of what live action superheroes could be. I mean, it's just whoo. And the fight is just wonderfully crazy. And at the end, it's really, Barry and Robbie kind of get an assist, but at the end of the day, it's Oliver for the most part, with a technical assist from Rafe Palmer, who was ultimately the one to take down the Reverse Flash. And we even get to hear Harrison Wells give him a little hint as to Oliver's future. It's like, you're going to live to be 86 years old. Meaning, yeah, Oliver's got another 60 years of life left in him. He lives to a ripe old age. And of course, the Tumblr fans were all squealing. It's like, yeah, he gets to spend like forever with Felicity. And like, well, let's hope nothing happens to Felicity between now and whenever Arrow decides to say sayonara. But yeah, now one other thing that I saw some people were upset about were like, oh, come on, Oliver basically wins the fight with the Reverse Flash on Barry's show? That's bullshit. Somebody was even saying, like, oh, they just did this to increase the ratings on Arrow. Okay, yes, Flash does get higher ratings than Arrow, but Arrow's been on the show for 3 years. Generally, shows tend to fluctuate in viewership numbers as time goes by. But Arrow is still doing just fine on this, and I don't see how in the world Oliver winning a fight on Flash is going to lead to higher ratings on Arrow, because the Arrow season finale was literally like 24 hours later. And I don't really think that anybody is probably going to see that and go, oh wow, I guess I should go and start watching Arrow. I mean, some people might if they really aren't very familiar with Oliver, but there's also the fact that we've established that Oliver knows how to kick the ass of speedsters. I mean, he shot Barry in the back with arrows twice, and more or less, again with help, defeated Barry in the Flash versus Arrow crossover. So it's really more the fact that Oliver knows how to think in the tactical way that is necessary to take down somebody with superpowers. Okay, there ain't no Bruce Wayne in the Arrow universe that we know. So in the meantime, Oliver gets to be Batman. Oliver gets to be the guy who has the tactical mind, who figures out how to take down people with powers. And he does it. I mean, Reverse Flash gets a good fight, and again, Robbie and Barry do make a major assist. But again, I do love the fact that ultimately it's the guy with nothing but the bow and arrow who proves to be the one who really brings home the victory for the good guys. I mean, what a great screw you to Harrison Wells that is. So, Oh yeah. Nothing really huge to say about that whole thing between Cisco and Golden Glider, except him calling her Golden Glider makes no sense at all. I mean, golden, yes, but where the hell does glider come in? They never even mentioned that. But whatever. So yeah, and yeah, it was confusing for some people as to exactly when this happens in the Arrow timeline. Probably immediately before the last episode, before Oliver's buddies show up in Nanda Parbat or whatever. Uh, but don't worry about this crap too much. So yeah, guys, all in all, fun as hell episode. I am just beyond stoked for the season finale on Tuesday, and then there's all the stuff that we got to see with Legends of Tomorrow, which kind of gives us a hint of where things are going to be going for Barry and Captain Gold and Oliver um, in the immediate future. And oh man, this has just been such a great year to be a comic book fan. It has been such a great year. Okay, guys, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. So next time, take care and have a good one.